You flip the switch, the screen goes dark, and you assume the tracking stops. You turn off your location, mute your microphone, and open a private tab. But what if the off button is a lie?
Toggling off location services in your settings manager will only affect about 1 in 5 of the major tracking mechanisms.
What you will not realize is that this tracking is so extreme that Google can track every location you've been to 24/7 and track every click on practically every website and know every single search.
While the interface tells you you're safe, the extraction process continues in the background. The privacy settings you trust are just masking a system so aggressive that even the US government, which is using it, is now fighting in court to tear it apart.
Hundreds of millions of people use Google products every day. They're super convenient and many are even free. But that's the thing. Free is not free. They monitor literally everything that you do to train machine learning algorithms and to sell your data to advertisers.
From the constant listeners in your bedroom to the neural networks feeding directly on your behavior, the surveillance never stops. Today, I will show you how exactly Google is spying on you and how it built an empire using your data. In late 2025, a federal jury ordered Google to pay $425 million for the illegal tracking of its users. Beyond the record-breaking fine, the case exposed a surveillance dragnet of unprecedented scale. By January 2026, the U.S. Supreme Court stepped in to determine whether this level of monitoring violates the Constitution and if police should have access to it at all. The path to this legal showdown began 8 years ago when the public first discovered that Google's off button provided no actual privacy.
Also now, Google could be tracking your movements whether you like it or not. An Associated Press investigation found that even when location history is turned off, many Google services on Android devices and iPhones store your location data.
Google utilized dark patterns, manipulative interface designs that buried privacy toggles deep within complex menus. While this appeared to be a strategy for targeted advertising in 2018, it changed the following year. The data fed into Sensor Vault, a massive database that effectively cataloged the movements of millions. Law enforcement soon began using this archive as a primary investigative tool.
Law enforcement agencies are now using Google to track down suspects. The tech giant uses a database called Sensor Vault.
For police, the function acts like a dragnet, locating every device near a crime scene.
This led to the geofence warrant. Police stopped looking for specific suspects and started demanding data for entire geographic areas. Anyone within a certain radius of a crime scene was automatically flagged. Walking down the wrong street at the wrong time turned ordinary citizens into suspects by default.
This Valley man learned big data companies like Google can track your location if you're logged into your account on your phone. He says that data actually landed him behind bars, but police got the wrong guy.
The errors hit real people fast. Jorge Molina spent 6 days in jail because an algorithm placed him at a crime scene. Zachary McCoy faced a burglary investigation after his fitness app tracked his bike ride past a house 3 times. These cases triggered the wave of lawsuits that forced Google to act. Under public pressure, the company announced it would process location data locally on devices rather than on cloud servers. However, the mechanism that collects the data remains operational.
Anyway, I was suspicious. So I logged into Google accounts and was surprised to discover it showed the pixel with the current IP address, current location, and a current timestamp for the last sync, which was only a few minutes ago in my case. But I had no Google app running on the pixel, and even the browser was DuckDuckGo, no Chrome on it. The phone had no Google login even. Remember, it's a de-Googled phone. I suspect there was a JavaScript background process called a web worker, and this could have been sending telemetry to Google.
A smartphone functions as a tracking beacon even without active apps, but the surveillance extends beyond the streets. The most critical privacy gap exists inside the home, where the security of the private sphere depends entirely on whether a microphone is truly waiting for...
Hey Google, begin Operation Kevin.
For years, the tech industry promoted a narrative. Your smart speakers and phones are inactive until prompted, that they only wake up when you say a specific trigger phrase like, "Okay, Google," and that your voice is analyzed strictly by automated systems. The facts, however, tell a different story.
A new study finds your devices are listening to you more than you think they are. Researchers at Northeastern University say your smart speakers can be accidentally triggered and start recording up to 19 times per day.
A casual conversation, a cough, or a squeaky door is often enough to trigger a recording and send it to the cloud. In practice, the wake word behaves more like a loose filter than a strict lock. So, if the device records you by accident, where does that audio go? In July 2019, the internal review process for these files became public.
And Google admitting its contractors now can listen in on people who are using a Google virtual assistant.
A Belgian news outlet gained access to an internal Google portal. They discovered that thousands of human contractors around the globe sat in headphones, actively reviewing user recordings. Of the 1,000 leaked files, 153 were labeled false accepts. When the devices had turned themselves on, what did these strangers hear? Because the devices were activated by mistake, these contractors ended up listening to confidential business calls, private arguments, and intimate domestic moments. All of it was captured and stored on Google servers.
Here's what I'll say. If you buy an internet-connected microphone in your house, somebody probably will hear something you say at some point.
Users often rely on the mute button to ensure privacy. The red LED turns on, signaling the microphone is off, but this usually only mutes the device at the software level. The physical hardware remains powered. While niche privacy-focused devices use hardware switches to actually sever the electrical circuit, this approach isn't widespread in mainstream devices, and any software-based lock can be overridden by a firmware update, bug, or backdoor. In the US Senate, Google's representatives struggled to justify a system designed to be essentially impossible to disable.
Americans have not signed up for this. They think that the products that you're offering them are free. They're not free. They think that they can opt out of the tracking that you're performing. They can't meaningfully opt out. It's kind of like that old Eagles song, you know, you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. That's kind of what it's like dealing with your company.
So why do users keep those devices at home, even if they know that the hardware is always listening? Ecosystem integration is gradual. It often begins with a single speaker bought just to check the weather. Then it connects to a smart bulb and a thermostat. The network expands until removing the microphone means dismantling the home's daily infrastructure.
Ecosystem is a trap. It lures you in with the promise of convenience, only to lock you inside a walled garden. Like Google and Apple, they start with a good product, but then force you to use the whole suite to get the full experience. The larger the ecosystem, the bigger data harvester it becomes. It becomes a bigger target for hackers, and the more products it offers, the more data it has to give to the surveillance state.
We accept constant monitoring in exchange for small utilities, like voice-activated lights or kitchen timers. Privacy is traded for basic home automation. In January 2026, Google settled the class action lawsuit over this eavesdropping for $68 million. Compared to Alphabet's annual revenue, it's the equivalent of an $11 parking ticket for someone earning an average salary. They paid the fine, legally admitted no wrongdoing, and the case was closed. But Google's data collection extends beyond capturing ambient audio. You might think staying away from Google's hardware keeps you safe, but if they can't collect your data, they buy it. And before we jump back to the 2026 age of AI, we need to look at two more data scandals from the same period, when tracking moved from your digital habits to your physical body. We are used to thinking that Google knows our location and voice, but the data collection didn't stop at digital behavior. The company's next expansion targeted our medical data. In 2019, a Wall Street Journal investigation revealed Project Nightingale. Through a partnership with Ascension, a major healthcare network, Google gained access to the medical records of 50 million Americans.
In the program called Project Nightingale, Ascension is reportedly providing patient names and dates of birth, as well as lab results, hospitalizations, and diagnoses to Google.
And what happens when the biggest advertising machine on the planet holds your medical history? This information can be legally utilized and monetized.
The tech industry in general wants our healthcare information. They desperately want it because they can learn a lot about us. They can not only create better profiles of who we are, so they can advertise at us better and all of that.
And to apply this medical data effectively, it must be linked to offline behavior. This is where health records intersect with financial transactions. Bloomberg found out that Google struck a secret deal with MasterCard, buying access to the offline credit card transactions of millions of people.
How much did Google pay MasterCard for this data?
We know it was millions of dollars, and we don't know exactly how much. It probably over $10 million for sure.
They paid millions to track what you buy in physical stores. But how is it legal for a tech giant and a credit card company to trade your financial history without explicitly telling you?
It's another classic case of when you sign up for a MasterCard card, when you sign up for Google services, in page 24, paragraph 3, it'll say something like, you give us permission to use data for marketing purposes.
Now they have a full cycle. A microphone catches a cough in your bedroom. An algorithm logs your medical diagnosis. A credit card swipe at the pharmacy closes the loop. It is a live biological and financial profile of your existence. We've seen how they extract this data, but the real question is, why do they need this unprecedented monopoly on our lives? The answer leads straight into the architecture of modern finance, an automated market where human behavior is traded like stock. There is a misconception that Google takes your data and sells it to third-party brokers. That is completely false. Google generates over $290 billion a year, 73% of its entire revenue, by selling ads. And your private data is the core asset that makes those ads so profitable because of a system called real-time bidding, or RTB.
You go onto the website, and the website tells tens or hundreds of companies that you've never heard about, all about you, so that their clients can decide whether to bid on the opportunity to show you an ad. It includes not only inferences on your sexual orientation, religion, what you're reading, your location, sometimes right up to your GPS coordinates, but it also includes unique ID codes that are specific to you, as is your social security number. And this lets all these data be tied together over time by these companies you've never heard of, and it puts them in a position to build intimate profiles about you and what makes you tick. And not just you, but everyone you have ever known.
What Dr. Ryan is describing is exactly why Google needs your offline secrets. An anonymous user is worthless, but a user whose profile combines a recent hospital visit, a recorded cough, and a pharmacy purchase is a highly valuable target. Pharmaceutical companies will pay a premium for you. Your intimate life is broadcast to hundreds of companies just to set the price.
The entire economy of the internet right now is basically built on this practice. All the free stuff that you take for granted online is only free because you are the product. They make money by selling your data.
This is the ultimate truth behind Alphabet. Every free service they offer, Gmail, Google Maps, Android, and even the development of new technologies, everything is heavily subsidized by this process. They build convenient tools solely to harvest your data, which increases your value on the RTB exchange and allows them to sell your targeted attention to advertisers. But running only the auction wasn't enough. Google owns the entire infrastructure. If this were a real-world stock market, one corporation would represent the buyers, provide the software for the sellers, and own the exchange building itself. They see everyone's hidden bids, and they take a 30 to 40% cut from the transactions. Instead of a free market, it is a closed loop. This level of control became so blatant that the US government intervened in January 2023. The Department of Justice demanded the breakup of Google's advertising empire.
Today, the Department of Justice, joined by 8 states, filed a civil antitrust lawsuit in the United States District Court against Google. We alleged that Google has used anti-competitive, exclusionary, and unlawful conduct to eliminate or severely diminish any threat to its dominance over digital advertising technologies.
On April 17, 2025, a federal court ruled that Google's ad tech business is an illegal monopoly. The verdict confirmed the company had rigged the market to maintain control. Now in 2026, Alphabet is fighting through the appeals process to stop the government from breaking up the company. Google tracks you because your behavioral data is the foundation of a multi-trillion-dollar empire. And while the government attempts to break this monopoly, Google is already pivoting, feeding your data into a new AI ecosystem where deleting your history is technically impossible. When faced with surveillance on this scale, users look for an exit. For millions, that was incognito mode. The screen turns black and you assume the tracking stops. But a $5 billion lawsuit revealed that the black screen was purely cosmetic. Incognito hid your history from your family, but never from Google.
A case was filed back in June 2020 that claimed Google was secretly collecting data while Chrome users were in incognito mode. The plaintiffs are seeking damages of at least $5 billion. The plaintiff alleges that Google tracks and collects consumer browsing history and other web activity data no matter what safeguards consumers undertake to protect their data privacy.
Backed into a corner by the courts, Google agreed to destroy billions of illegally collected data points. The media called it a privacy win, but that penalty belongs in 2018. In 2026, deleting a database is a technical formality. Those records no longer sit in a neat folder. They have already been absorbed into the new ecosystem. The AI industry hit a data wall. Large language models had already ingested the open internet, like Wikipedia, Reddit, and public websites.
If you use all of the training data available on the internet or from whatever source that you are using, that means that you cannot scale efficiently or effectively anymore. It seems possible that we will be using all of the training data available on the internet within this decade.
To survive the AI race, models need a constant feed of fresh, complex human behavior. This is where Google leveraged its monopoly. In the age of AI, your behavior, your voice, and your digital footprint are assimilated into the very weights and parameters of the algorithm. It learns your habits to predict human nature. And once the AI has learned from you, you cannot delete yourself from it. In computer science, this is called the machine unlearning problem.
The AI can learn, but once it's learned, it can't really forget. We can't undo the impacts the different data points had on the model when it comes to how it behaves, how it thinks, how it acts.
You cannot extract a single drop of ink after it has dissolved in a glass of water without destroying the entire system. Google can promise a judge they will delete a file, but they can never make the AI forget what it learned from you. The privacy war isn't about stopping them from selling your data anymore. It's about stopping them from building a digital clone of our society. The most brilliant part of Google's monopoly isn't the technology itself. It's the fact that they never forced us into it. They built an ecosystem so utterly convenient, so seamless and frictionless, that we locked the door ourselves, and we paid them with the only currency that actually matters.
Surveillance capitalism has claimed something from outside the market and brought it into the market to sell and buy. But in this case, the territory that it has claimed is private human experience. What is this marketplace trading in? It's trading in bets on our future behavior.
The surveillance doesn't stop when you close your browser. Click the video on your screen to uncover what Microsoft is hardwiring directly into your operating system.